saw the picture. Are we okay?
What's attached to the Actually, our Irish friends are on. Yeah, August 1st. Cleared it up. As Dharma Sethi said, it must be something to have a whole country with.
I know you like when they're fun, but I don't want to see it.
No, I don't. That makes too. It's money or a complaint. Whatever it is.
I made an announcement last night about the townhouse. This Saturday, we had a nice,
Thank you very much.
nice crowd.
Thank you so much.
Mic stand's not bad. We'll wait a follow. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari. 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 Gopijana Balava Jivanadari. Gopijana Balava Jivanadari. Gopijana Balava Jivanadari. Gopijana Balava Jivanadari. Yasurandana Prajajanarandana. Jasorandana Prajajarandana. Jamutira Vanachari. Jamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari. Gopijana Madhava Jivanadari. Gopijana Madhava Jivanadari. Yasurandana Prajajanarandana. Jamutira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Rashtra Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Guru Vaishnava Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Shri Guru Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Gadada Shiva Sri Gaur Bhakti Vrinda. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Radha Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Dwarka Dham Ki. Navadi Dham Ki. Jagannathpuri Dham Ki. Chamuna Mai Ki. Ganga Mai Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Samveda Bhakti Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sri Sri Radha Giri Dedi Ki. Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jagati Ki. Go Premanandi. All glories to the Son of the Buddha. All glories to the Son of the Buddha. All glories to the Son of the Buddha. All glories to the divine Lotus Sita Svi Svi Guru and Gauranga. Krishna Spadamo Bhagate Dharmaganadi Visaha Kalam Sadasham Mesha Varana Kodi Lutata Uttama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. The Bhagavatam is as brilliant as the sun. It has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of the age of Kali should get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, we should first offer respects to the personality of God Narayan, to the Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, the author, Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are on famous question. I believe we're on text 5. Maitreya Uvacha.
Well, I think that they didn't realize that
He did do 2 verses.
Sorry about that.
Oh, well, we've been through words. I appreciate your sincere effort.
I did too. So you did this.
Yeah, so who's got a device?
I mean, there's many devices.
Can Bhakti Davis read over your shoulder? Or you have the... Oh, hey, wait. Oh, that's not the Bhagavatam. You have a device. We have many devices.
I think everybody has a device.
The heart is full of devices.
There's also a book. Do you have a book?
I don't have the book in front of me, but
You don't need the book.
I don't need the book because I have a device. So we're all gathered around. So it's 3rd canto, chapter 25, verse 5. Right? We're all ready to go? Except we lost Jagannath Tirtham. As everything in this world does. Maitreya Uvacha Pitari Prashtite Aranyam Matu Priya Chikirshaya Tasmin Bindusare Vatsid Bhagavan Kapila Kila Maitreya Uvacha Pitari Pratite Ranyam Matu Priya Chikirshaya Tasmin Bindu Sare Vatsid Bhagavan Kapila Kila Maitreya Uvacha Pitari Prashtite Ranyam
Matu Priya Chikirshaya Tasmin Bindu Sare Vatsid Bhagavan Kapila Kila Maitreya Uvacha Pitare Prashtite Ranyam Matu Priya Chikirshaya Tasmin Bindu Sare Vatsid Bhagavan Kapila Kila Maitreya Uvacha Pitari Prashtite Ranyam Matu Priya Chikirshaya Tasmin Bindu Sare Vatsid Bhagavan Kapila Kila Maitreya Uvacha Pitari Prashtite Ranyam Matu Priya Chikirshaya Tasmin Bindu Sare Vatsid Bhagavan Kapila Kila Maitreya Uvacha Pitari Matu Priya Chikirshaya Tasmin Bindu Sare Vatsid Bhagavan Kapila Kila Vaishnavi Maitreya Uvacha Matu Priya Chikirshaya Tasmin Bindu Sare Vatsid Bhagavan Kapila Kila. Do we know where Bindu Sarovara is? It's not in the Himalayas. Of course, it's since Satyuga, so everything's changed. You know where Bindu Sarovara is? He says on the Saraswati River. Okay, well, we'll take that under advisement. Maitreya Uvacha. Maitreya said, Pitari, when the father, Pratishti, left Aranyam for the forest, Matu, his mother, Priya Chikirshaya, with a desire to please, Tasmin, on that, Bindusare, Lake Bindu Sarovara, Avatsit, he stayed, Bhagavan, the Lord, Kapila, Kila, indeed. Translation. Maitreya said, when Kardama left for the forest, Lord Kapila stayed on the strand of Bindu Sarovara to please his mother, Devahuti. Also you say, Maitreya said, when Kardama Muni left for the forest, Lord Kapila stayed on the strand of the Bindu Sarovara to please his mother, Devahuti. What does that mean, the strand? Is that like the banks? What does that mean? The beach, okay. In the absence of the father, it is the duty of the grown son to take charge of his mother and serve her to the best of his ability, so that she will not feel separation from her husband. And it is the duty of the husband to leave home as soon as there's a grown son to take charge of his wife and family affairs. That is the Vedic system of household life. One should not remain continually implicated in household affairs up to the time of death. He must leave. Family affairs, and the wife may be taken charge of by the grown son. Good morning to you. Why don't we give this young man a cushion? Om Ganatan Randasya Ganagana Salakaya Jakshushamilitan Gena Tazari Shi Gurave Namaha. So here we have the grown-up son taking care of the mother. And of course, the modern idea is dump the old lady. What a burden. Shuffle her off, because I want to enjoy. I don't want my mother living with me. Forget it, you know. If you drive up not Coast Highway, 5 to Los Angeles, when you get to Orange County, maybe you'll see the signs. There's a place called Leisure World. I mean, they put a nice new one. Your warehouse till you die. But they call it Leisure World. The locals called it Geezer World or Seizure World, if they're more blunt on the thing, you know. And it's where you pack off the old and they play golf. And if they don't have golf, they can't play golf. They've even got a range setter you can set. If you can't swing your golf club, you just hold the club and you set the range, and the thing will go whack, you know. Assuming you can stand up. My grandmother stayed there for a short period of time till it's a long story. My parents felt bad about it. Because you die very quickly. People lose much hope. You know, they're just warehouse with a bunch of oldsters, and it's depressing. So I went to visit her one time, and she was reading the obituary page. I said, Grams, well, what's up with that? And she said, I want to make sure we can still get together a foursome for the bridge game. I want to make sure that, her old friends hadn't shuffled off the mortal coil and, where they'd gone. So this is the nature of the things. They get in the way, and I want to enjoy. So I am going to get to a theme. I'm just sort of dancing around it for a moment. You know the saying, habit is second nature? You heard the saying? Habit is second nature. Habit is very strong, very hard to break. And we are conditioned, what to speak of lifetime after lifetime. But in this world, at least when I was a kid, when you would go to the doctor and get a shot, usually they gave it to you in the rear end, whack! What would they usually do right after the shot? What would the nurse do? Give you a lollipop. And you think, oh man! And give you a lollipop. Not so bad. So there's some pain and there's some relief. There's some pain and there's some relief. Pain, relief equals happiness. And we're conditioned. There's some itch. Prabhupada said when there's an itch, what is a very powerful thing? What's pushing us when there's an itch? Oh, it feels so nice. Especially if you're in India with mosquito bites, which is inevitable nature of India. Scratch. Oh, it feels so much better. But is that really, and that becomes ingrained, that becomes the habit. We become conditioned that there's some stimulus, there's some response. There's an itch, and I scratch it. There's a pushing factor. What is it? Manasa Vega, Krodha Vega, all the different... Yeah, the tongue, the mind, the belly, the genitals, the desire to talk. What else have I missed? Anyway, they're all pushing us, and they're very, very powerful. So this becomes, if there's the pressure and I relieve it, pressure and relief equals happiness. But does it really? Really, if you have, what is it, a -1 plus 1 equals, it's not heavy math, Bruce. -0 plus, -1 plus 1 equals 0. So there's a negative and I relieve it. It's not really a positive, it's a 0. You've come back to, So the Vedic tradition, I mean, here we're reading, this is archaic, man. We were talking, the word archaic came up yesterday, isn't it? Yeah, it's old-fashioned, it's feudal, it's out of date, it's prehistoric, it's, come on. I don't want to go back to the Dark Ages. So there's the marshmallow test. Everyone heard of the marshmallow? They give it to kids. It's a classic psychological test. You give a little kid, I don't know what the age is, but it has to be a little kid, maybe 6 years old, something like that. And you say, I'll give you one marshmallow. Let's say they're vegetarian marshmallows. Such things do exist without gelatin. So you give the little kid a marshmallow. And you say, now I'm going to give you this marshmallow. You can eat it right now if you want. But if you wait, I'll come back with 2 marshmallows. Don't eat it now. And if you haven't eaten it, when I come back, I'll bring you another marshmallow. And then they leave the kid alone. And it's the wild, you see these kids, I mean, they're pulling out their hair, they're pulling their ears, they're like, ah. A lot of the kids just can't hold out. And they don't leave them long. They don't, like 5-10 minutes. Most of them can't, they just woof it. They can't, you know. And there's the rare bird that actually, you know, grits his teeth and holds onto his seat and makes it, you know. So the Vedas have what they call prayas and shreyas. What is, other than Dravida and Balaram, what is prayas and shreyas? Anyone want to hazard a guess within this context? There's Dravida Prabhu.
No, I was going to say, well, it's only a 50% chance we say it comes to both. But anyway, prayas is immediate gratification.
Immediate gratification. And shreyas is a little bit of a distance. Now, if you layer onto that, human form of life is meant for shreyas. It's not meant for prayas. It's not meant for immediate gratification. That's for animals. That's who human form of, if it's infused with a concept of I'm meant to make progress. The inherent, like Prabhupada says, they look at evolution, but they got the wrong idea. That the soul evolves through the different species of life. It's not that the species are evolving, but rather the soul, you know, on the cycle of samsara evolves through the different, you know, the human form of life is the apex, and then ideally self-realization back home, back to Godhead. So, in the same way, there's a sense of progression in life, but materialistic progression is education, occupation, marriage, and then you get a house. What is the old thing they used to say? First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes so-and-so with a baby carriage. That's a ditty we used to sing when we were a kid. But then you get a house, you get a family, and then you eventually pay off the house, and you put the kids through college. It's the American dream, which Dave Amritamar says, you have to, they call it the American dream because you have to be sleeping to believe it, which I thought was a pretty cool sentence. But they have a sense of progression that, you know, and the success is you're an old geezer, if they haven't shuffled you off to Seizure World or Leisure World. You know, you look out and you've got your house paid off, you've got your, you know, your kids all educated. It just generations continue. You got your grandchildren married off, and you're sitting as the patriarch at the top of the pile, hopefully with all of your teeth. And that's the progress in life, that you made it. House, family, everything taken care of, got a good IRA or whatever it is, and then you just cruise in your golden years till finally you kick over. So they have, I mean, I don't mean to be blunt, but there it is. But there's a sense of progress. You don't find that in the animals. You don't find the animals, you know, making a plan for 70 years from now. They're not saving for the IRA or whatever it is. It's for the human form of life. But it's a perverted, it's a misapplication. The actual progress is meant to be in realization, in consciousness. That's the actual purpose of human form of life. What is the wealth of the Brahmins other than anybody else know? Somebody guess? No, that's a good guess. It's good. And on one hand, it's true. He said knowledge. Renunciation. You find, it's talking about going to the forest, that ultimately, get ahead of it. Do we have a clock? Get ahead of it. What's easy? It's easier to give it than have it ripped out of your fingers. They look happy. Wait a minute, you Hare Krishna's just sour grapes. I mean, you know, drive up to La Jolla. They got their big estates and their fancy car out in front, and They just got back from the ski trip and wherever it was, and kid got into Harvard. I mean, come on. What's wrong with you guys? We're having a great time. And they do, and they actually do look like they're happy, and they may actually be so-called happy for the moment, which is a big hint. But what's inevitable? Old age, disease, and death. Nobody gets out of... Well, there it is, an Oprah moment. One of the first devotees I met, Sukadev. I was coming up from surfing at Thalia Street in Laguna Beach. I was 17 years old. I was in great shape. I just got accepted into a good college. I was on the conveyor belt, man. It was all going to work out great. Bronze body, girlfriend, having a great time. Everything was great, you know. Motorcycle in the garage. So many things, you know. And then one of their devotees, I met Shukadev, and he said, you know, this world's full of suffering. And I said, maybe for you, you know. So you're just not doing it right, my friend, you know. And he said, you know, seeing my smug nature, he said, you know, there's one thing about this world. I said, what's that? He said, nobody gets out alive. And it just rattled around in my brain and just spoiled everything. You know, like you got cotton candy and you throw water on it, you know, just like, that was it, man. Just spoiled everything. But it's a fact. Why not get ahead of the inevitable? Go to the forest. Give it up. Detachment. Because ultimately, that's the point. If we look at it, I guess I'll say it because we're talking about duty. That's the point as a theme. Time. We did it's in its 4th or 5th draft stage, but there's a constitution for ISKCON. Now, a constitution, it's how a social body, all the parts fit together. You know, you got your federal and your, judicial and the executive, you got your branches that all fit together and how it states and how the whole thing, and the individual's rights and all that. But a constitution, basically, a Western modern constitution, is based on the principle of rights. We hold, what is it? We hold these, inalienable rights, I forget what we hold these, that all men are created equal. Actually, all men are not created equal. Nobody's created equal, if you look at it. Everybody's different. In fact, unless you're an identical twin, and even then you have different personalities. Truth is actually, we're off the track, but truth is actually based on spiritual principles. The only way that statement is true, we hold these truths to be all men, of course I mean all people, are created equal. It means that they're spirit soul. In the eyes of the Father, we're all equal. But materially, nobody's equal. So truth only holds true on the spiritual platform, but we're off the track. But it's all about inalienable rights. And you've got gay rights, you've got black rights. Now they got white rights, Aryan power. I mean, everybody. They call it the 3rd generation. Now there's another. So, I mean, it's all scrambled up. So, it's all based on rights. And rights mean you owe me this. You have a duty to deliver this to me. And it creates a very anxiety-ridden, tension-filled atmosphere. Anyway, when we were doing Rabindra Sarup Prabhu told me this because he was on the Constitutional Committee. So they thought, well, let's go to the Law Book of Mankind. Manu, right? You would go to Manu Samhita, get the Law Book of Mankind, and let's give that a breeze to get an idea of what the rights are. It's all on digital. You can just search it. Thanks for that. So you punch in rights, right? Let's see what comes up. You know what comes up? Anyone want to guess what comes up? Zip. What comes up is duty. Duties. And if you think about it, rights means I'm dependent on others to provide for me. I'm demanding and you have to give. If you don't give, I'm fried. Revolution or whatever it may be. But one's duty one can always do. And Prabhupada gives an example. He says how you should greet a guest. We have a duty. If a guest comes, you have a way of greeting them. And Prabhupada says, you offer arti, you offer sweet words, you offer silk cushion as a seating place. There's so many, fan. So many ways you greet. If you can't do that, Prabhupada says, well, then you can offer this. If you can't do that, then offer this. Bottom line is, Prabhupada says, if you can't do that, even a poor man can offer a grass mat, a glass of water, and some sweet words. And even that, Prabhupada says, if you can't do that, you can simply fold your hands and cry, and anyone will accept. If it's offered sincerely, and if it's someone so destitute they fold their hands and cry and forget, your heart melts. So your duty you can do in any condition. So I was thinking about this business of duty. Prabhupada liked to, there's that famous, I think it's actually Brahmananda's mother, I can't remember, correct me, you may know. But we used to have a little pamphlet, it was great, it's called Who's Crazy? Because, they used to, go out like this, people think, especially in the 70s, they thought, you guys are crazy. We used to get it all the time. It was right up there with get a job. We used to say, Vishnu John Maharaj used to say, I've got a job, trying to save you. And they say, and it isn't easy, They always used to say, get a job. What kind of nonsense is that? So that's the donkey's brain. Get a job, get a job. You can be a fool like me and carry a burden. What do they call a wage slave? Anyway, so where were we? That was it. Thank you. Just making sure you're listening. So Brahmananda's, what happened? I think Brahmananda joined first. And he was a social worker, and he came in of a good family. His company had a big hardware chain, hardware stores. And then the father divorced and got remarried, and the whole thing unraveled. But anyway, so Brahmananda calls, says, oh, I've met this Swami, and I've given up everything, and I'm becoming his student. And Jewish family, the mother completely freaked, and she sent the younger son, Gargamuni, Greg, to deliver the older brother, Bruce. Gargamuni met Srila Prabhupada, took prasadam, met the devotees, chanted Hare Krishna. Greg called his mom and says, Bruce is fine, no problem, and I'm moving in too. And the mother drove from upstate New York. You could just drop the phone, you could hear the wheels burning out the driveway. She drove all the way down, came to Srila Prabhupada at the lower, and she burst in and she kept saying, you're crazy, you're crazy. And Prabhupada, in his sublime composure, sat her down, had Brahmananda offer full obeisances, which, and then Prabhupada said, Madam, you say we're crazy. Frankly, we think you're crazy. So Prabhupada said, let's decide. Prabhupada took a piece of paper, laid it out nicely, drew a line down the middle. He said, now let's make a list. Who's crazy? And that's where the pamphlet comes from. That's the genesis of the thing. So make a list. They want to become happy, short-term sense stimulation. So I was thinking, if you think about it, the sense of duty. So instant gratification or learning the art of tolerance. If you can learn to tolerate, you'll never solve it. That's the thing. If it's not, we had a guy from Arkansas. He was a professor at University of Michigan, but he was folksy. He had some old oaky sayings, which were quite true. And one thing I heard him say one time to somebody, they said, boy, if it's not one thing, it's another. He said, no, son, it'll be both. And that's the nature of this world. You solve one thing. It's the perennial, eternal whack-a-mole. You hit one and another one comes up. You never solve it. You're never going to hit it. And even if you hit on all 10, you got to have money, you got to have health, you got to be living in the right place, you got to be with the right people. You got to be doing something you like. I mean, I don't know what it is, but you can add it. You got to have the right weather. I mean, you can have tons of money and live in Phoenix. I mean, forget it, you know, no offense, but, or Detroit, or Cleveland, which they call Mistake by the Lake. They call it Cleveland. It's a good place to be from, is the old joke, you know. So, in other words, get out if you can. So you got to have all the things, and you'll never get them all. It's always constantly shifting, and it's a giant whack-a-mole. But if you learn to tolerate, then you become happy. The wealth of the Brahmins is detachment, is renunciation. That's their strength. So that's one thing, make a list. Instant gratification or tolerance. If you're self-centered, just, you know, got to be about me. I mean, look at Trump. Somebody, you know, if anything doesn't please him, I mean, I don't want to go political, but, you know, what his first cabinet meeting, they just went around and everybody praised him and said how wonderful he was. That was the end of the meeting. Huh? Yeah, 100%. He's probably not there anymore. But the point is that, you know, if everything's got to be about making me happy and I've got to be pleased, it's a very narrow, petty, superficial, and shrinking world. Your heart becomes the size of a chickpea. There's no happiness in that. Because ultimately, we're not. Yeah, we're nothing to write home about. I mean, you know, each as the individual spirit soul, but materially. So, but if one's happiness, instead of everything's got to be for me, like in America, your birthday is like a big deal. Everybody's got to give you gifts and praise you, right? You know what a Vedic birthday is? You give in charity. You give away. You feed the homeless, you feed the poor, you serve others. It's a whole different concept. So, if one's happiness is serving others, you can do that in any condition. If your happiness is everybody's got to praise me, it's not going to. Suppose you came over here for Mangalartik and you opened the curtains and there was Badrinarayan Swami on the altar in one of Krishna's outfits. Would you all start singing my prayers? You would think, what? Get Dravida, he's finally gone off the deep end, you know. Get a net. You wouldn't find it relishable. I mean, I wouldn't like it, but you know, Trump would like it. Everyone was singing his praises when they woke, you know, and first thing in the morning, feeding him nicely, you know. But nobody else would find it a big deal. But you please Krishna, everyone will become satisfied. So that is a happiness. Even you can't do it physically, you can do it within your mind. You know, I dreamt that I won the lottery one time. We were in a particularly tight financial situation at the temple. It's a long story. And I dreamt I won the lottery. And it's a long story. We didn't even have to buy the ticket. My son found it. It was all worked out perfect, you know. And I had so much fun. You know, we built a beautiful big temple for Radha Giridhari, and we gave money to Mayapur. And I was spending money like doing so many things. It was fantastic. And then I woke up, and it was 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd missed Mangalartik. My alarm hadn't gone off. I had a stiff neck from sleeping so long, and I was poor as a church mouse still. I had a minute to kind of snap my mind back to, you know. It stayed with me. So the thing is that, you know, in the mind you're not satisfied, but you can serve Krishna within the mind, and Krishna fully accepts it, and it's fully satisfying. So, I mean, we could go down the list, but we're running out of time. But internal satisfaction versus external satisfaction. Being served or offering service. So one is depending on all kinds of conditions. The other you can do in any state, and is profoundly more satisfying. So the simple thing is that, there's different drivers of the world. Just like I was saying, that we're conditioned. That happiness means I get some pain, I get a lollipop, and that if the negation or the neutralization of stress or pressure or pain is happiness. It's not enough, they say. It's not enough to succeed. A formula for happiness, material happiness. It's not enough to succeed. What's the other side of the equation? You have to see your enemies fail. You have to be able to drive by in your Mercedes and splash mud on the bully who beat you up in in elementary school. He's out there selling, I don't know what. And even in the Bible, you find this. When they're in Revelations, when they're in heaven, they're sitting at the right hand of God in heaven. But what else do they hear? The gnashing. They can hear the people in hell. And very good. I made it, and you didn't, so ha ha ha. What is that? How mundane and superficial can be such a concept? Prabhupada said devotees are tolerant. There's one sound. So one of those, everything in the Bhagavatam is fantastic, but it's one of those especially fantastic lines of Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam. We've just talked about tolerance. What is the one sound that a devotee cannot tolerate? Janardhan snoring. Me snoring. No. The sound of this is Prabhupada's words, the sounds of the conditioned souls being crushed by the illusory energy. That they can't tolerate. They put up, when they first did the renovation downtown, it used to be really cheesy down there. It was tattoo shops and porno shops, because all the drunk sailors, that's where they hung out, brothels. So when they renovated the whole place, Horton Plaza and they put all the fancy restaurants, there was a problem. The homeless were still there. And you want to bring your girlfriend or your business partners and impress them with a big dinner of dead bones and feathers or with fermented grape juice. So, whatever it is, you want to impress them. But you got homeless people pressing their nose on the window. Spoils the mood, right? Get some guy drooling over your plate. They think, oh, jeez. Spoils the mood. So they had it's a true story. They had a blue ribbon committee assembled, what to do. You know what their conclusion was? Put up curtains. If you don't see them, they're not there. Out of sight, out of mind. What is that? What kind of compassionate, healthy, wholesome society? That's the answer? Just push them out of the neighborhood. Put curtains up and push them out of the neighborhood, and then it's not my problem. But a Vaishnava, that one thing a Vaishnava can't tolerate is the suffering of the conditioned souls. So here it talks, in summation, and we'll end. Human form, we see Kapil, of course, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but it's the Vedic culture that one becomes happy doing his duty. He didn't shuffle his mother, Devahuti, off to the old folks' home, to the geezer